Hello, and thank you for joining me for Mindful Monday. I'm Daphne Lee of Highly Sensitive and Strong. Each Monday, I offer a free guided meditation and often a talk to go with it. If you're catching this as a replay and you would like to join our Mindful Monday meditation community live on Zoom, simply click the link below or in the description to get signed up for free. We'd love to have you. And now on to today's talk and practice. So today we're going to be talking about trauma and doing work to help heal our inner child. So have you ever found yourself going about your day when something catches you off guard, and in a flash, your body can be charged with energy, your head might feel foggy, or your mind is racing, and your emotions can feel really huge? Shame or fear sometimes can overtake you in these situations. You might find yourself lashing out in anger or wanting to run away and hide, or you might even feel frozen in place, like you can't make decisions or move your body. So if you were to go back and consider what it was that provoked this reaction in you, something probably made you feel unsafe, either physically or emotionally. And this is what psychologists call a trauma trigger. Trauma is defined as anything that is too intense for your nervous system to process in the moment. And because highly sensitive people respond to all stimuli in a stronger way than many of their non-highly sensitive counterparts, it means that we can be more susceptible to having traumatic experiences and also to experiencing traumatic triggers in our lives. And just as a reminder, I mean, high sensitivity is, we're on our own spectrum of sensitivity, and all humans are sensitive in their own ways. So it's not correct to say that some of us are sensitive and others aren't, because we all have things that we are sensitive to. And all of us, regardless of our level of sensitivity, can and likely do have some trauma triggers in our own lives. So our individual experiences interact with our genetics, with our own nervous system, and also with our previous life experiences. And what that means is that what is traumatic for one person might not be traumatic for another. And only you can say whether or not something was traumatic for you. And whether you think of yourself as having had a traumatic childhood or not, all of us can benefit from doing work to help acknowledge and heal our own inner child. Because as children, we were all vulnerable. Children get hurt very easily, especially with their feelings. And, also, especially so as highly sensitive people, um, a stern look from your father or a strong word or a reprimand from your mother could cause a wound in your heart. And so as young children, we often have really strong feelings and we have a lot of feelings, but it might be very difficult for us to express ourselves. And we, as very young children, don't always have the language to talk out the strong feelings that we have. And sometimes, even if we found the words to communicate what we were feeling, sometimes the adults around us either didn't hear us, they perhaps didn't listen to us, or they may not have even allowed us to talk and to say what it was that we wanted to say. And the truth is that whole generations of people were raised under the sort of general belief that children should be seen but not heard. And luckily, that's something that has really started to change in more modern times. But some of us carry this difficulty of expressing ourselves into adulthood. And it's not even, it doesn't always even have to be that as children that it was the adults in our lives that didn't listen to us, but also it could be that we had experiences with our peers where we were perhaps shamed or ridiculed or bullied in such a way that made it very difficult for us to express ourselves, and that can be carried into adulthood. And we can still come home to ourselves as adults, and we can talk to, communicate with, we can listen to our own inner child, and we can respond directly to them to help encourage healing. And this is really practical work to do because your inner child is still there, it's still with you, and they may have wounds that still need to be healed. And so, even if you received a lot of love and really good care from your parents as a child, connecting with your own inner child can still be very, very healing work to do. Because again, we all carry wounds. So, my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, was one of the world's most influential Zen masters and mindfulness teachers. He was the father of what's known as engaged Buddhism. He passed away in January of 2022 when he was 95 years old. And he spent his life spreading teachings of mindfulness, compassion, and nonviolence to people all over the world from many different spiritual and religious backgrounds. And his teachings, more than any others, are what have helped me to navigate life as a much stronger and healthier, highly sensitive person. So, in his book, Reconciliation, Healing the Inner Child, he offers insights on how mindfulness practice can help heal childhood suffering and trauma, and with practical techniques for transforming anger, sadness, and fear. He shows how we can come to peace with our painful life experiences. So, I wanted to just share a little bit from the introduction on the child within in Reconciliation, Healing the Inner Child by Thich Nhat Hanh. So, I'm just going to read just a short bit here before we jump into our practice today. In each of us, there is a young suffering child. We have all had times of difficulty as children, and many of us have experienced trauma. To protect and defend ourselves against future suffering, we often try to forget those painful times. Every time we're in touch with the experience of suffering, we believe we can't bear it, and we stuff our feelings and memories deep down in our unconscious mind. It may be that we haven't dared to face this child even for many decades. But just because we may have ignored the child doesn't mean she or he isn't there. The wounded child is always there, trying to get our attention. The child says, I'm here. I'm here. You can't avoid me. You can't run away from me. We want to end our suffering by sending that child to a deep place inside and staying as far away as possible. But running away doesn't end our suffering, it only prolongs it. The wounded child asks for care and love, but we do the opposite. We run away because we're afraid of suffering. The block of pain and sorrow in us feels overwhelming. And even if we have time, we don't come home to ourselves. We try to keep ourselves constantly entertained, watching television or movies, socializing, or using alcohol or drugs because we don't want to experience our suffering all over again. The wounded child is there, and we don't even know she is there. The wounded child in us is a reality, but we can't see her. That inability to see it is a kind of ignorance. This child has been wounded. She or he really needs us to return. Instead, we turn away. Ignorance is in each cell of our body and our consciousness. It's like a drop of ink diffused in a glass of water. That ignorance stops us from seeing reality. It pushes us to do foolish things that make us suffer even more, and that wound again the already wounded child in us. The wounded child is also in each cell of our body. There is no cell of our body that does not have that wounded child in it. We don't have to look far into the past to find the child. We only have to look deeply, and we can be in touch with them. The suffering of that wounded child is lying inside us right now, in the present moment. But just as the suffering is present in every cell of our body, so are the seeds of awakened understanding and happiness handed down to us from our ancestors. We just have to use them. We have a lamp inside us, the lamp of mindfulness, which we can light anytime. The oil of that lamp is our breathing, our steps, and our peaceful smile. We have to light up that lamp of mindfulness so the light will shine out and the darkness will dissipate and cease. Our practice is to light up the lamp. When we become aware that we've forgotten the wounded child in ourselves, we feel great compassion for that child, and we begin to generate the energy of mindfulness. The practices of mindful walking, mindful sitting, and mindful breathing are our foundation. With our mindful breath and mindful steps, we can produce the energy of mindfulness and return to the awakened wisdom lying in each cell of our body. That energy will embrace us and heal us, and will heal the wounded child in us. So with practice, we can see that our wounded child is not only us. Our wounded child may represent several generations. Our mother may have suffered throughout her life. Our father may have suffered. Perhaps our parents weren't able to look after the wounded child in themselves. So when we are embracing the wounded child in us, we're embracing all the wounded children of our past generations. This practice is not a practice for ourselves alone, but for numberless generations of ancestors and descendants. The people around us, our family and friends, may also have a wounded child inside. And if we've managed to help ourselves, we can also help them. When we've healed ourselves, our relationship with others becomes much easier. There's more peace and more love in us. Go back and take care of yourself. Your body needs you. Your feelings need you. Your perceptions need you. And the wounded child in you needs you. Your suffering needs you to acknowledge it. Go home and be there for all these things. Practice mindful walking and mindful breathing. Do everything in mindfulness so you can really be there, so you can love. So that's from Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Reconciliation, Healing the Inner Child. So we might ask ourselves, how do we cultivate this energy of mindfulness so we can heal and alleviate our suffering? The energy of mindfulness allows us to be aware of what's going on in our body, in our feelings, our thoughts, our mind, and also what's going on around us in the world. So, whatever we're doing, whether it's cooking, sweeping, washing, walking, being aware of our breathing, we can generate the energy of mindfulness. And then the seed of mindfulness that is within us all will become strong. So we simply have to practice over and over again, turning our attention back to the present moment. One of the easiest ways to do that is to notice your breathing or to notice your physical sensations. So let's do a practice together. Today, we will practice mindful breathing and connecting with our inner child. Begin by taking a moment to allow your body to settle into a comfortable position. You may close your eyes or keep them slightly open, finding a spot on the floor to focus on. Allowing your spine to lift and the shoulders to soften. Begin by taking a full breath in and a long, slow breath out. Allowing the breath to settle the body and the body to settle the mind. Feel your chest and belly gently rising and falling with each breath, allowing yourself to relax, to let go a little more with each breath. And together we're going to take one big, deep breath in, feeling your belly expand, your lungs expand. And then, as slowly as possible, releasing. And as your body continues to settle and to relax, spend the next moment quietly noticing your breath's natural rhythm. And begin to notice any shifts or changes in your body's sensations. And now turning inward, spend the next few moments as you call to mind an image of yourself as a child. And simply witnessing and allowing whatever it is that comes to mind. Imagine yourself as a child. And as this image begins to form, notice what it is that you're doing. Notice what you are wearing. Notice any expression you find on your face. And spend the next moment simply noticing any feelings or any sensations that begin to arise as this image forms of your child self. How does your child self feel? Do they feel joyful or happy? Do they feel lonely or abandoned? Notice if your child self feels scared or worried. And resist the natural urge to begin to judge yourself or your experiences. And instead, practice simply witnessing whatever it is that comes to mind. Whatever emotions or sensations are present, simply notice without judgment. And now begin to call to mind a second image. Make this be an image of yourself as a supportive, wise adult. Spend a moment or two with whatever comes to mind as you begin to imagine yourself as a supportive, wise adult self. And once you have this image in mind, begin to visualize this wise adult self walking over to your child self. And spend the next few moments noticing whatever begins to come up as your wise adult self joins your child self in your mind's eye. And simply notice any shifts or changes in the feelings or the sensations you notice in your child self as he, she, or they are joined by this wise adult self. And imagine now this wise adult self kneeling beside your child self, perhaps holding their hand, or maybe even sharing a warm hug. And imagine now as your wise adult self looks into the eyes of your child self and offers the following words: I am here with you now. From your wise adult self, speak these words: I love and accept you for exactly who you are. From your wise self, say, you are safe with me. You are seen. You are heard. And you are understood by me. So begin to acknowledge the child self that is present inside of you as you begin to practice acknowledging their wants, their needs, their feelings, knowing you carry this childlike part of you in your heart with you each and every day. Tell them, I am here with you now. I love and accept you for exactly who you are. You are safe with me. You are seen. You are heard. And you are understood by me. And just notice if there are any feelings, any emotions coming up. You might even, as that wise, supportive adult version of yourself, asks your child self, is there anything else that you need? And simply notice whatever arises. Is there anything you want to tell me or that you need to hear? And again, just noticing whatever comes up. And then just allowing that visual representation of yourself just start to fade off into the background as you bring your attention back to your body in this moment, perhaps noticing your physical sensations, noticing any additional sounds that you can hear in and around you, in the room that you're in, the space that you're in. And when you feel ready, gently expanding your attention, becoming more present, noticing any shifts or changes inside of yourself. And if you have your eyes closed, gently begin to blink them open as you return more fully, more presently into this moment, knowing that your inner child is always there with you. Our inner child is with each of us, each and every moment. I always like to think of it as um, every age I have ever been is within me and still lives on within me. And so we can always connect with those parts of ourselves that might need some healing, that might need some reassurance, and might need some unconditional love and understanding. And we can give that to ourselves. And when we do, it will benefit all of our relationships. So, thank you so much for joining me today on this uh, Earth Day 2024, April 22nd.